Welcome to HFY Stories. Please subscribe to the channel. Your one click means the world to me. The wrist gives with a sound like ice sheeting over a puddle, one clean crack. And she keeps her feet planted, weapon still raised, breathing through it like it happened to someone else. That's the last 10 seconds of this. I'll get you there. 2 centuries I've run this training ground. Scaled recruits, armored recruits, one batch of Forge World constructs that never needed sleep. When Command told me Earth had finally signed enough treaties to send bodies into the Defense Force, I pictured a mascot, not a soldier. What I got was something under 2 meters tall, no plating, no claws, standing behind a heavy welder like she was trying not to be noticed. Though I'd learn later that was just her being polite about blocking other people's sightlines. Mira Kane. I called her to the center of the ring because humiliation teaches faster than kindness, and I've never claimed to be a kind instructor. Up close she looked breakable. No natural armor, no venom, nothing built into her that a real fight would respect. I told the whole cohort her planet had sent a joke. She told me her planet had sent her because she'd qualified, same as everyone else standing there. I put her in front of the practice dummy, the one rated to survive a heavy welder at full output, and told her to demonstrate whatever passed for combat technique where she came from. Her first kick landed like a hand, slapping wet fabric. The dummy didn't register it. The cohort laughed loud enough to rattle the girders, and I let them, because I wanted to see what she did with that. I told her exactly what I thought her species was, a product of an easy world, soft in every place that mattered, built by gravity too gentle to make anything worth fearing. I told her she could cry or she could go home, and I'd sign either request happily. Something behind her eyes shut like a hatch ceiling. She rolled her shoulders once, almost lazy. "You might want to step back, sir," she said. I didn't. The second kick didn't sound like fabric. It sounded like a hull breach, one violent crack of metal. Remembering it was never built to bend that far. 3,000 pounds of alloy folded around the point of impact, tore loose from anchors rated to hold through orbital bombardment, and went end over end into the far wall hard enough to split reinforced concrete. She landed on both feet, perfectly square, like she'd done nothing more remarkable than exhale. Nobody breathed. I counted 3 full seconds of it later, off the footage, trying to understand what I just watched happen in my own arena. I accused her of augmentation, drugs, cybernetics, something. She offered herself for scanning on the spot. A Calvaxian cadet, someone who could bench press a transport shuttle, told me flatly that the force required for that kick should have needed triple gravity musculature and reinforced bone density humans plainly didn't have. I pulled the species file myself, standing right there, and found a footnote nobody had bothered reading. Persistence hunters, built to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, bodies that cooled themselves through sweat instead of shutting down, pain signals that could apparently be muted like background static. One line, flagged anomalous and never followed up, documented cases of impossible physical output under extreme stress. Nobody had thought it worth a second look. I asked her, off the record, how she'd done it the second time, with her pulse barely elevated on the sensors. She said it was simple. "You made me angry, sir." I should have ended the assessment there. Instead, I brought in Qualos. Threxian, war-world muscle over a skeleton built from bad intentions, 6 eyes, mandibles that click when he's entertained. I ordered him to spar at 1/5 of his output. She scored a clean hit on the opening exchange, fast enough that the sensors logged it before I'd finished calling the point. He came back faster, 3 attack angles inside 2 seconds, and she took one on the forearm and turned the other 2 into an opening that put him flat on the mat. By the 4th pass, he wasn't clicking with amusement anymore. He threw a combination that had won him championship matches across 3 sectors. She met it with something that looked assembled out of scrap parts, nothing in any manual I'd ever taught from, and somehow was already past his guard before the strike finished landing. He went down. Her hand hovered an inch above his throat, close enough that everyone in that room understood exactly what she'd chosen not to do. "What was that?" he asked, flat on his back, all 6 eyes wide open. "Everything my planets ever fought each other with," she said, poured into one bucket and stirred. He admitted afterward he'd abandoned the 20% order somewhere around the second exchange, running closer to 60 by the end. He'd still lost. Her biometrics that night showed a heart rate that should have triggered blackout and muscle readings that belonged on a trauma alert. She'd ignored every warning her own body had sent her. I wrote it up and flagged it urgent. Command's answer arrived within the hour. Statistical anomaly, individual variation, maintain standard protocols. I filed again the following week with cleaner data. Same words, colder tone. By the third week, I understood nobody up the chain was reading past the subject line. Which is how we arrived back at the wall, and the wrist, and 4 veteran shooters certain they had her boxed. It was a live-fire urban exercise, reduced lethality, 4 to a squad. Her team went down around her in seconds, shields overwhelmed, one recruit locked out entirely. She was alone behind a slab of fabricated concrete while suppression fire chewed the air a meter from her skull. Protocol said surrender, take the loss, learn from it. She went over the wall instead of behind it, a leap that shouldn't have cleared the height with her gear on, firing one-handed with an accuracy that made the scoring computer flag a possible fault in its own hardware. She landed inside the formation and simply started moving. 4 shots, 4 hits, 4 opponents locked out of their systems before most of them registered. She'd crossed the distance. Qualos dropped his rifle and closed to melee, certain that was still his ground to win on. It lasted maybe 10 seconds. She caught his strike mid-swing, borrowed his own momentum, and put him face first into pavement hard enough to crack the composite beneath him. Her training blade rested at the base of his skull before the dust from the impact had settled. "Yield," she said, quiet enough the recording almost missed it. Simulation terminated. Victory, her team, though by then it was really just her. Her wrist had broken somewhere in that 10 seconds. I found it on the biometric log afterward. A clean fracture logged in real time while she kept firing, kept moving, kept finishing the engagement like the injury belonged to somebody standing behind her. 3 torn muscles besides. When I ordered her to medical, she told me it felt fine. Her own sensors called her a liar. She went anyway, arguing the whole way there about missing afternoon drills. I sent command everything that night, footage, biometrics, a direct request for species reclassification before this cost someone their life outside a training exercise. Their answer came back in under a minute of reading time. Cease submitting reports on human recruit capability. Concerns noted and dismissed. Further reports would be treated as insubordination. I stood at the observation window a long time after that, watching her negotiate with a medic over how quickly a fracture could be cleared for duty, and understood something I didn't want to. The galaxy was going to learn what she was eventually, on a real field, and it wasn't going to be gentle about the lesson. So that night, I opened a file command will never see and never approve. Not a warning, nobody above me wants one of those. Just a record, kept for whoever eventually needs it, of everything we were ordered to stop writing down. It sits behind encryption I built myself. Every entry opens the same way. A date, a set of numbers nobody up the chain would read, and one line I keep coming back to, because 2 centuries of training the galaxy's best hasn't taught me anything truer. We weren't training the anomaly. We were the ones who'd been wrong about everything else.